Hello there, I'm Kevin Sparenberg. I've previously been a network and systems administrator with a concentration on monitoring and observability, and as one of the newer people at SecuriThings, I'm one of those guys asking a ton of questions. And then I got to thinking, and I realized that some IT folks interested in implementing the SecuriThings solution will ask many of the same questions I did. For those of you curious about how the SecuriThings solution works with physical security, building management, and other devices and services, you found the right video. The SecuriThings solution consists of two components, the cloud-hosted dashboard and the locally deployed connector. Each component supports a specific technology stack and communicates with each other using either TLS over HTTP or MQTT. This keeps all communications secure and typically requires minimal firewall configuration changes. The HTTPS protocol is common. Nearly all web traffic runs on this port, but the MQTT port may be new to you. The message queuing telemetry transport is a lightweight, open-source messaging protocol that enables real-time communication between devices. It's commonly used in IoT physical security devices to relay event-driven messages. The entire access control list comes down to a handful of IP addresses and those two ports. Now I could give you a deep dive into the web console, but let's save that for another time. Today, we're going to concentrate on the connector and how it operates. To begin with, let's start with the basics. The SecuriThings connector is built upon a Linux physical or virtual machine you provision within your network. Red Hat, CentOS, and Ubuntu are required, but remember that this is your server. Maintain and manage this server as you would any other within your infrastructure. What's important is the software running on top of that hardware. Speaking of hardware, the connector requires 8 cores, 32 gigs of RAM, and 100 gigs free in the root partition backed by solid-state disks. Each connector can pull between 15 to 20,000 devices depending on the device complexity, and you're free to run multiple connectors. Customers have deployed additional connectors if they're running more devices, want to maintain network segregation with their IoT devices, or operate geographically disparate locations. During the connector pre-check and installation, you'll have to have remote access, typically via SSH and standard network tools like wget, curl, telnet, and SSH available on the server. The installer does require superuser or sudo rights, but only during the installation process. The pre-check validates all of these requirements. We'll ask you to run a pre-deployment tool on your server to make sure it meets the requirements. It's going to do the following. Check for sudo rights, validate permissions on the local file system, check the path variable, check for the required hardware specifications, check to see if the server can communicate with the SecuriThings cloud, check your operating system information, check your local disk, optionally make a call to a local management system to validate connectivity, and then install the containerization platform. If the check needs to install software, which it typically does, you'll be asked to log out and run the check again with all the software in place. At the end of this second run, you'll get a message asking you to send the results of the check to SecuriThings for review. Our team will review it, validate that you're ready to move on to the next step, and provide you with your individual installation instructions. Before we go any further, I want to take a quick tangent to discuss why we're using containers. Here at SecuriThings, we leverage containers for their ephemeral nature, which is good for security, and for their resiliency, which is critical for any observability solution. The benefit for you and your IT team is you don't need to worry about the care and feeding of the solution. Since the solution operates within containers, the platform pretty much takes care of itself. In the event that something does happen to one of the containers, recovery is both quick and automatic. All right, let's get back on track. After the SecuriThings has verified everything is in order, it's time to install the connector. Our team will build a connector deployment script for you and provide you with the instructions on how to download and launch it. This script will download the necessary container images, configure them for your tenant, and begin communicating with the SecuriThings web console. Once deployed, the connector is done, and most discovery management will take place via the web console. We often get questions about how the connectors do their discovery, and I want to set the record straight. We don't scan your network. What we do is ask the management systems about their related entities. Once we have that information, we can speak either directly or via the management system to get details about the devices. It's very similar to asking a hypervisor about the guest virtual machines and then asking the VMs to tell us about themselves. Long story short, SecuriThings does not do IP or port scanning. The connector will make calls to your various IoT devices, so you'll need to make sure communications are allowed. The ports and protocols for communications will vary depending on the devices in question. Your customer success manager can provide guidance on the specific access controls needed based on your vendors and devices. Basically, if you want to monitor cameras that operate via HTTP, MQTT, and SNMP, you'll need to make sure the connector can connect to those devices on those ports. And that is pretty much it. The connector does the heavy lifting and the cloud-based web console provides the interactions. If you need to deploy additional connectors, it's pretty much the same process. To learn more, go to SecuriThings.com and check out our guided tour or sign up for a free trial.